Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, it's Penn State week in Columbus, and you know what that means. People are almost as excited as if it was a rivalry week.
Boom, perfect. I was wondering if you're going to say, doesn't mean anything, but it is a night game, so that's exciting. And Ohio State's going to be wearing all scarlet, and that's going to be exciting. And, whoever the opponent is, that's great. And this week it's an opponent that just lost to, I believe, who was it? Gosh, let me think about this.
It was ask James Franklin who they're playing right now.
Do we want to spend 30 minutes talking about James Franklin, how he is so focused on the task at hand, and he's not even thinking about all of these jobs that are coming after him, there's no way he's not even being lost in thought at never having to deal with Ohio State again, except for when he makes the playoffs at USC or LSU. But yes, he is very, very focused, and all he wants to talk about is Illinois. And I would be thinking, do you really want to, are you really just, this is what you want to talk about, Illinois? But of course, Tom, he was clearly lost in thought or just, it was bizarre, frankly.
I'm going to just, in case you're wondering what the heck we're talking about, this is from Tyler Donahue, who is a Penn State recruiting and football guy at 247. Is James Franklin committed to being Penn State's coach beyond 2021? Open quote. My focus is completely on Illinois and this team and this program. I think I've shown over my 8 years my commitment to this university and this community, and that's kind of my statement, which is number one, that's in the business, we call that a non-denial denial. And number two, later, David Jones, who is a columnist for PennLive.com, tweeted, James Franklin has twice said in his current Zoom conference call, when asked about the distraction of his future being in the news, that his focus is on Illinois. The next opponent is Ohio State, but hey.
But Tom, isn't this just like when you go to the grocery store and you write a check on January 1st or January 2nd and you date it the year before and you're like, dope, I'm such a dope, still writing checks, yes. Isn't this exactly like that, though?
I think it's more like how, they tell you to live every week like it's Shark Week. I think he's living every week like it's Illinois Week, which is, of all the ways you can choose to live, that is one of them.
That's more Bluegill Week. That's like, that's Carp Week, I think, is Illinois. Illinois Week is more Carp Week, where
I think you have a couple letters mixed up there, but that's all right.
All right, Tom, spicy today. This is nice. So yeah, we did talk with Ryan Day today on Tuesday and Tuesday availability. Talked to Ryan Day, Jeremy Ruckert, Nicholas Petit-Frere, Haskell Garrett, Tyreke Smith. Tom, is that all of them? Did I get them all right?
Tony Alford made a cameo, but that was it.
He did, and made a cameo during Haskell Garrett's session. Asked Haskell Garrett a question. Haskell Garrett wanted nothing to do with it. About a certain nickname that he has, and what Haskell said, like, don't you have film to watch? Something to that effect.
That was exactly what Haskell Garrett said. Don't you have film you should be watching right now?
Yeah.
He chased Tony Alford out of the room.
And then later, and maybe it was Tim May asked, so Haskell or whoever it was, Haskell, where's that nickname come from? He's like, I don't want to talk about it. So it's like, I don't even want to mention the name for fear of any type of retribution. Never upset on purpose. A 6'2", 320-pound, 305-pound defensive tackle who is one of the baddest men in college football. I'm not going to do it. Tom, would you like to share the nickname with everybody?
I don't even remember what it is.
Smart, Tom. Very, very smart. So yes, there was some talk about Penn State. There was some injury talk. Let's update some injury things here first. Marcus Crowley, running back, is out for the season. I'm going to assume he's out for the season. Ryan Day called it a long-term injury with a long road ahead of recovery. That happened during the bye week. There are rumblings about that, and he confirmed that on Tuesday. Master Teague, they are expecting back this week, and it's good timing. As there's been a lot of good timing with these running backs, and one goes out, one comes in, and one guy gets injured, another guy steps up, and it's good to have, before the season, like, how do you got 6 running backs? How do they all play? Well, one moves to linebacker, And then the others just go ahead and trade off injuries, and they play that way. Julian Fleming, as we suspected, it was just he could have played, but there was no sense in putting him out there on that field, and so they held him back for his own good. He will play this week, so that will be fun to see him out there again. I wanted to talk about another receiver though, who has nothing to do with injuries. Now that we've covered the injuries, Ryan Day talking
Mayan
about
Williams. I don't think you hit. I don't think you hit on Mayan Williams. Right. Did you?
No. He will be back. He's fine. That was just a little issue, and he's good to go. So he will be playing as well. And they'll have 4 healthy running backs to take on that Penn State defense, possibly the best defense in the nation, based on what we heard today. Do you have anything on the injuries before I move to Marvin Harrison?
Nope. I just wanted to make sure we touched on Mayan Williams because that's someone that has come up repeatedly on our SC Insiders board. So yes, he is, as we suspected, he is fine.
Yeah, and we'll get the full availability report on Friday or Saturday and see if there are any new names there. But Marvin Harrison was asked about, and Ryan Day talked about how he's been stepping up in special teams. We all saw the catch and the move that he made, and made 2 or 3 defenders miss, and also took a big hit and kept going on another play. And what I liked what they had to say about it is like, yes, he's making plays and he's going to help them this season. Like, he is going to play more. And you're seeing that, I think, with the Emeka Egbuka as well. And I think both of these guys, they're not tracking like Garrett Wilson. They're tracking like Chris Olave. And they're going to have to continue to, barring any injuries, they're going to have to just find snaps for them. And I know there's still going to be some blowouts coming. I wonder, Tom, if we start seeing more second quarter, there they are. And just, it's not always when the game is over and you get 2 snaps with CJ Stroud, then the rest of your snaps are with Kyle McCord and Jack Miller. I wonder if we start seeing more of them in the first half in the third quarter.
I think that's absolutely what's about to happen because, you go back to 2018, to your point. This is exactly the time of year when you started seeing Chris Olave. He was like a total non-factor. And then right at the end of October, we got an interview with him and everyone's like, why are we talking to Chris Olave? And then that week, I think he scored a touchdown. And then, a month later, he's scoring 2 touchdowns in the first half against Michigan. It's like, oh, I get it now because he was about to be good. Well, we're scheduled to talk to Marvin Harrison Jr. on Wednesday. So that to me signals that Marvin Harrison Jr. is about to maybe take a step forward in terms of his role with this team. Because, Day was kind of more impressed with the play over the middle where he took a big hit and held onto the ball. The play where he, there were 2 Indiana defenders there. And he made them look like 2 police cars crashing into each other at the end of the Blues Brothers. It was just like, one guy juked one guy, then spun around the other guy, and they just like wiped each other out off and then boop down the field. Like, that was like, oh, okay, now I see it. Like, we have been talking up Marvin Harrison for quite a while, and he's someone who anyone around the program has been just begging to tell you, like, oh boy, this guy's fantastic. Just wait till you see this guy. Well, now you're starting to see him. So, yeah, these guys, both Harrison and Egbuka, are kind of following the Ohio State wide receiver path to a bigger role on the team, which is you're playing on special teams, you're making plays on special teams. Harrison had the punt thing on Saturday at Indiana, but that's you may remember a rather famous punt block that Chris Olave had as a true freshman. Like that's sort of the path to the field. Egbuka has been doing it in the kick return game. You're seeing them do all that stuff. You're seeing them take a bigger role. So yeah, it is pretty clear where this is headed for both of those guys.
Yeah, that move that he put on those defenders was more Johnny Dixon, Terry McLaurin, somebody that's a 6-foot dude rather than a 6'3", 6'4", 210-pound guy who looked remarkably athletic. And they talked about his work ethic, and he's always just come in and worked and never been a problem, and basically was a professional growing up, essentially following in the footsteps on the field of his father. Talking to the media and then playing well, Tom, I wonder how much of the credit the media deserves and stuff like all. Okay, then I don't wonder, because I was going to say the same thing. I do not wonder how much credit media deserves when it comes to players, young players playing well, because they're finally like, oh my gosh, how am I going to answer these questions? How am I going to deal with these reporters and their tremendous questions and their fabulous insight? And then when they get through it, they're like, I can do anything. I can do anything football related. I have succeeded. This has been the toughest thing I've ever had to go through, but I've learned from it. And now I can go beat future NFL cornerbacks. And so would a thanks suffice? No, but it would be nice.
I mean, I know you're kidding, but also, is talking to us really less difficult than playing Akron? I mean, if we're being real honest, like,
Now they're making the rest of the Big Ten look like Akron as well. I want to talk a little bit about CJ Stroud, just because of how good he's doing and playing. And if we don't, then it's like, I feel like we're shortchanging him. He's continuing to move up the Heisman boards, and Tom is very adamant about the Heisman being the most important trophy in sports, but we don't have time for that now, Tom. I asked Day, is he asking more of CJ Stroud right now than he was Justin Fields and Dwayne Haskins at the same point? Because I saw somebody on our board post, they must have gotten it from Pro Football Focus, about the number of passes down the field and 10 yards and under, and the percentage of it. And like Dwayne Haskins was like 20% of his passes when he started in 2018 were behind the line of scrimmage. And I think probably 18% of those went to Paris Campbell and the jet sweeps. And Justin Fields had a higher percentage of passes behind the line of scrimmage than CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is throwing more down the field than either of those two quarterbacks did at the same point. And it feels to me like, I know Dwayne Haskins came out just throwing the ball like crazy when he was the starter. Feels like Justin Fields was eased into it a little bit, and he didn't really have a whole bunch of 300-yard games in 2019. I think I think CJ Stroud has been given more. He's got more around him. Dwayne Haskins had McLaurin and Paris Campbell and guys like that, and then they both kind of shared Austin Mack and Ben Victor. But with CJ Stroud, there's more explosion down the field. So that's why they didn't say, he's like, I don't know if I'm asking more. I'm just asking different things. And I think one of those different things is the downfield stuff. And Tom, to me, that's asking more.
It's asking more, but also he's got so much of a better offensive line than Dwayne Haskins did in 2018. And he's got so much of a better running back core than he did in 2018. But the flip side of that is Dwayne Haskins came in and had a couple of years to sit. He could sit behind JT Barrett for a couple of years, have full years of development, get a lot, 2 spring balls, 2 falls of getting some reps at the end of games. CJ Stroud hasn't had that luxury. He, went through the weird year last year, threw 0 passes, and then came into the spring as like, well, this is the kid who's probably going to be the starter. So good luck, kid. And, has performed pretty much just as well as Justin Fields did 2 years ago. That to me is as remarkable as anything. Because I think you look at Justin Fields, go back and listen to what we were saying is, before that season, that 2019 season with Justin Fields, it's like, okay, let's be realistic. He's not going to be that, there's going to be a learning curve. He's not going to be perfect immediately. He's not going to be, he is not going to look like one of the greatest quarterbacks in Ohio State history because he just got here in January. Like, you can't possibly expect that from him. And then he came in and just immediately looked like one of the best quarterbacks in Ohio State history. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. But you can't put that on CJ Stroud. Like, that's not realistic. And it's like, CJ Stroud did not immediately look like one of the best quarterbacks in Ohio State history. It took like a half, and then there was like a week and a half off or so, and then immediately it started again. Like, it's just like, oh, okay, so this is just how this is now. Like, this is just all Ryan Day quarterbacks look like this. And just, if they're freshmen, they just win the freshman of the year or freshman of the week award in the Big Ten literally every week. That's just a thing that happens. So it is, it would have been completely unfair to expect him to do this at the beginning of the year. But now it's just like, oh yeah, this is just what CJ Stroud does. He just throws for 300 yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns. And, every once in a while, I guess he throws an interception, but it doesn't happen very often. And that's just how it is. But, Day, when we asked him about TreVeyon Henderson, what TreVeyon Henderson was doing, made a point to, like, his answer started with, well, it all starts with the offensive line's blocking and the tight ends blocking, and the wide receivers blocking. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of other stuff that helps CJ Stroud look good, because CJ Stroud has been in a difficult position. He was put in a difficult position with a short year last year and no pass attempts and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of mitigating factors that help explain why this is happening so quickly for him. But also some of it is just, hey, CJ Stroud's pretty good at football.
It is always interesting to me when Ryan Day is asked about TreVeyon Henderson, and everybody knows TreVeyon Henderson is quite possibly the best running back in college football. And Ryan Day, not that he's critical, but he's just so cautious in putting any type of like, oh man, like he's going to be amazing. Like he's a future All-American. He's like so cautious about all of that. And credits the offensive line, and for good reason, because Tom, there are so many times where TreVeyon Henderson just has the biggest, widest area of ground to run through, and then he'll make somebody miss. And that's when you see, oh man, he's really good. It's like Lydell Ross could be averaging 6.5 yards a carry, get 4.5 yards a carry with most of these looks that they're getting. It's just that first defender that comes in that is going to drop Ross, and that then gets dropped by Henderson. And I wonder if at any point we'll ever see Ryan Day be like, yeah, TreVeyon Henderson, I think he's going to be good. Or if he's just going to stay, he's okay, guys. He's fine. Hopefully get some weight, get a little confidence, maybe put some moves, and I've got to work with him on that. But, maybe in 3 years, he'll be serviceable.
I think there's probably a piece of that's you don't want to get too far out over your skis with any of these guys. And just, TreVeyon Henderson hasn't been asked to be the 25 carry a game kind of back yet. There's a lot of, looks good so far, looks good, hasn't had to do X. He is, outside of the Tulsa game, has he had more than 12 or 15 carries? I don't think he has. I mean, he hasn't been asked to be the bell cow back. He has not had to do this against, the best defenses that are on their schedule. There's a lot of those that are coming up. So, will Ryan Day be a little more, effusive with his praise if he does this against Penn State and Michigan State and Michigan and Iowa and whatever is beyond that? Like, yeah, maybe. But, it's also like you have seen the elite true freshman running back career go pear-shaped at Ohio State before. That is Maurice Clarett is the obvious example, but J.K. Dobbins, had a huge freshman year and then took a big step back his sophomore year. And we've talked all about the reasons for that, but that is a thing that can happen to a guy when, you get the immediate success and you're like, I've arrived. It's like, no. There's still a lot of work to do. You still got to get better. And that's something that every time you ask Ryan Day about, CJ Stroud, the same thing. It's like, you get the same answer on CJ Stroud. Like, wow, CJ Stroud's amazing. He's like, I don't want to ride the roller coaster. Like, how many times have we heard Ryan Day say, I don't want to ride the roller coaster this fall? Like, you don't want to get way up there. You don't want to get super high every time something goes well. Because then the first time you throw, 2 interceptions of the game, it's like, and you're going down the hill and, and that's scary. And that's not, you have to be, the whole point of the quarterback position is you have to be kind of even keel, not get too high, not get too low. It's kind of the same thing here. I think you don't want to get too effusive in your praise, because that's when you get comfortable. I mean, this is what Nick Saban calls rat poison, right? Like when everyone's telling you, hey, you're amazing. It's like, good, I can stop working and just bask in my amazingness. And like, that is not what college football coaches want.
I have to imagine Ryan Day is no fun at Cedar Point. Ryan, what about the Gemini? No, I don't want to get on the roller coaster. I don't want to ride the roller coaster. It's like the Gemini is like kids can do the Gemini. I said no. All right, stop asking. And
then Mickey Marotti's there like, well, can we at least get cotton candy? And Mick's just got his arms folded, shaking his head. No. Work that. Like, man, this is the least fun trip ever.
I paid $10 to park for this. You mentioned the resting on your laurel thing, or just being satisfied. Was listening to the radio today, discussing the differences between Ohio State's offense and defense and Oklahoma's offense and defense, and how Alex Grinch said that when he arrived at Oklahoma, the defense was like, we don't need to be great because the offense has our back. Like the offense will bail us out. That was kind of the attitude of a lot of the players. Ryan Day has said Ohio State's defense is getting better because they're just feeding off of the aggression of the offense, and things are getting complementary now. And there's just such a wide gap there between those two attitudes. And it sure seems I guess, fitting, but we'll see if Ohio State can follow through on that. One of the things that Ohio State did, or what Ryan Day said about the Ohio State defense and the improvement, is when he made the change, he talked to the players, he talked to the team, and said, you guys also have to take ownership of this. The defensive ends have to take ownership of the defensive ends, defensive line, defensive tackles. Like all of the defensive linemen have to take ownership of the defensive line room, linebackers, secondary, and all of that. And so when he's asked about the defense playing better, he said, I think part of it is that they are now taking ownership of what they're doing. And some of that is they now know what they're doing. So yes, I now own this spot because I am accustomed to it. And I know I'm going to play it. I know when I'm going to be called on to play it. And I know how I'm going to do doing it. And there's that confidence there. Haskell Garrett, we talked to him and he said, it's been fun to watch the confidence build. They love playing with each other. The friendly competition between the defensive ends and defensive tackles is like that. Nobody cares. Like just everybody get all of these tackles for loss, 14 tackles for loss against Indiana. Haskell Garrett couldn't be happier about that. And right now, this defensive line, the defense as a whole, getting more and more confident, and the ownership that they've taken, I think that is, credit Ryan Day for that. But when you talk about the entire betterment of the defense, well, it's the play calling, it's Barnes, it's the change of the schemes. Don't forget about the ownership aspect of it as well.
Well, when you go back to what Ryan Day was saying at the end of that Oregon game, in the Oregon post game, it was like, well, what's the issue here? Is it, we have to go figure out, is this play, is this personnel, is this scheme, is this coaching? And the next Tuesday he said, yep, it's all of those things. So the coaching staff can fix the coaching staff can change the scheme. I mean, they can change the personnel that are on the field, but, ultimately whatever personnel are on the field have to execute this, take that coaching and execute that scheme. And it feels like everyone's kind of on the same page now. Like, I mean, the beginning of the year, it looked like the defense was just kind of like everyone was kind of doing their own thing. And I think we maybe have gotten the sense there was a little bit of the hero ball thing going where it's like, I don't trust that guy to do his job. So I got to kind of just keep an eye on that. And while I'm keeping an eye on that, I'm not doing my job. And then something else opens up. Everyone has to do their 1/11th of the defense, basically. Otherwise you get into the spot where you're so worried about someone else that you're not doing your job. And that's where big plays happen. You get a little bit out of position and big plays happen. So, that confidence confidence is one of those things that we heard a lot about on Tuesday. That was a big, you have to practice well. If you practice well on Tuesday and you practice well on Wednesday, when they're doing the game plan install, you really get it down. Then you have the confidence to go out and execute fast on Saturday. You don't need to sit there and question yourself. You don't need to wonder, can I do this? If you do you put in your work on Tuesday and your Wednesday, it's like going into a test. Like if you're going to a test and you've studied and you're prepared, you're going in there thinking, I can do this. If you go in there like, I haven't gone to this class since week 3 and this is now the finals. I'm not feeling great about this right now. That's when you go in set up to fail. And, I think there was a little bit of, as much as we've heard about the importance of guys practicing well, I do wonder if there was a little class skipping going on in terms of practice, maybe earlier in the season. It sounds like everyone is kind of buckled down and improve their attendance, mentally, or however you want to, not literally attendance, but, mentally, how dialed in they are at practice, how seriously they're taking their preparation. And you're seeing that kind of play out on the field.
Man, the whole haven't been to a class for like 9 weeks and it's the finals. I finally stopped having those dreams, those nightmares, like 20 years finally after graduating, where it was still like you show up and you're like, why haven't I not been here? And then eventually I'll be like, I don't need this degree. Like I'm no longer in college. I don't need this degree. I can back out of this dream. I don't need this stress. And then I'm able to like just move on. But because I'm not going to sit in class in a dream. Are you crazy? Like, okay, yes. English lit, please continue. No.
I'm going to go in this dream. I'm going to recognize that I'm actually in a dream and I'm going to blow off this class and I'm going to go to the outer rim because that's something I can do in this dream.
Oh my gosh. That's like time traveling. I need to, where's my dream journal?
This is the I think we are inside the Ohio State matrix right now. This is how it starts.
Yeah. The next time, and I haven't had him for a while, but yes, I need to tell myself the next time I am in any type of class, I'll be like, no, I'm going to the outer end. And I'll probably be like on the medical campus. And it's like, oh crap, this is the longest walk ever. And I've had dreams of some long walks, and it's just like, it's never going to happen.
Dream up a moving sidewalk. I mean, come on, it doesn't cost you anything. But do I need to solve all of your problems, Tony? My goodness.
Moving sidewalk. I don't know. I don't know. That might get a little weird. But again, the outer end, yes, as you said, Tom, great place. Not a sponsor. If they would like to be, email one of us or just, find us, track us down. Nicholas Petit Frere, Tom, the one guy, whenever Jerry Emeka gets an idea at Ohio State, is like, well, we're going to have, who are we talking to this week? Well, blah, 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 blah. Nick Petit Frere. Good. Boom. You just said 3 magic words there because he's always great. He is the nicest kid. Bill Rabinowitz asked him from the Columbus Dispatch, do you feel like you're being overlooked? Because you're playing really well. Do you feel like you're being overlooked nationally? He's like, oh, wow. Thank you for saying I'm playing very well. That's an honor. And I'm like, me and Bill are friends. I can say this. I don't know that it's an honor. All right. But he is just the nicest. He doesn't care about recognition. And he spews out, says all of the normal cliches about, well, winning is the most important thing and this and that. And as long as we all do well, we'll all receive our recognition. He's not just reciting that from a book. Like he believes this. He was told this. This is what coaches say. He is bought in. He is the absolute dream of a recruit, a player, a person. This is a guy who was the number 1 offensive tackle in the 2018 class, was okay redshirting. He was not ready. He knew he wasn't. And there's never any transfer portal. He got beat out as a redshirt freshman by Brandon Bowen. And you know what? This is all part of, I know I'm not good enough. I know I need to get better. I think I could play, but I understand why I'm not. And I'm going to use this time to improve and get better. And man, if you could just have 85 of those guys, you'd never lose a game.
Yeah. And I mean, if you had 85 of those guys, you would have the happiest coaching staff in the world. I mean, goodness, it is. Yeah, he is, I mean, literally a coach's dream in a lot of ways. No moving sidewalks, but still. No. He is, I mean, when Bill asked him that question, it was like, well, does it bother you that people aren't noticing you? He's like, no, because normally if people are noticing an offensive lineman, it's for a bad thing. It's, I mean, it means that's the guy who just got beat. Like he doesn't hear. And he is, I mean, just to put a little bit of context around this, when we say he's the nicest guy, like he's like super friendly and outgoing. He's the guy who last year when it was the June day when everyone was, the first day players could come back to the Woody and everyone's in masks, and he was, everyone kind of shuffles in and they're like, look at these 40 morons taking photos of us walking down a sidewalk. He was the one who stopped and was like started talking to us and just how's things going. He was a couple of weeks ago, one of the games, I don't remember if it was Tulsa or Akron. At the end of one of the games, I'm on the sidelines shooting photos, and the game is well out of hand at that point. And he just walks over and starts talking to photographers, like, "Hey, what are you shooting with?" I think he's taking media classes or something, because he was very interested in what we're doing. It's like there's a game going on out there, it's over, but still, like you're supposed to pretend to. He's just a really like friendly, outgoing guy, and every year there's like just people who are just kind of like, you're not supposed to be partial. You're supposed to be, impartial media. It's like, yeah, but I mean, everyone loves Robert Landers. And like this year was, there's a bunch of guys on this year's team. Like everyone loves Thayer Munford. Everyone loves Nick Petit Frere. Like there's a bunch of really, really good guys on this year's team. But yeah, he does stand out there. He did, one of the reasons he wasn't playing early in his career is because of he just simply didn't weigh enough to be a major college tackle. I every time I think of him early in his career, I think of there was a highlight week, yes, maybe even fall camp, in just one of those like highlight reels where it's just you get a second and a half of a bunch of different plays. And it was Alex Williams, who was a guy who really was like a project coming out of Pickerington, who now has transferred to Vanderbilt. he's just absolutely bull rushing and just bowling over Nick Petit-Frere. And you just saw that second and a half, and it was like, oh Lord, oh no, oh, you shouldn't be getting bull rushed by that guy. He's, this is not like a big strong dude. It was just, I mean, he literally did like a backwards cartwheel or something. It was like, oh no. And he was asked today, which was harder, going from right tackle to left tackle or putting on weight? Because he had to, he was one of those guys who we talked about, has to eat 10, 12,000 calories a day for, years in order to actually put on weight. And he said, basically, it was close. Like, he didn't think anything would be close to as difficult as putting on weight was for him, but this was actually pretty close. So it was not the easiest, not the easiest challenge to go from right tackle to left tackle. But someone else asked him, is it as easy as you've made it look? And he was like, oh Lord, like, you think this looks easy? I can assure you, this has not been easy.
And I think he was even like, well, thank you for saying I've made it look easy. It's like, enough with the thank yous. Be entitled. I did ask him if he's thought about, is this his last year? And right now his mind is just like right here, right now. Didn't say yes, didn't say no, but there is a scenario where he's back next year, and you've got a very crowded offensive line, and we will eventually talk about that even more. But the difficulty in moving to left tackle, and then just the willingness to do whatever. He's happy he made the move. I mean, it puts all of that film out there, and is going to make him, like, maybe the national people don't know about him. On the offensive line, a lot of times on the defensive line, you have to be known before you, like, for not just known for something other than your play. Like, he's been kind of hidden for a while, and he's not a me guy. He's not a social media guy. He's just a very down to earth guy. And I'm going to say guy one more time, just because I've said it 17 times. But I think the NFL certainly will take note of him, and it'll be interesting to see where that leads to when they see how well he can play on either side. I also asked him, are your standard at left tackle right now? Are you trying to elevate where you were at right tackle, which he was very good, or are you trying to be better than the standard that Thayer Munford set? And I thought it was very like him to be like, oh, Thayer Munford is going to go down as one of the great left tackles in Ohio State history. And not just for the stuff he does on the field, but everything he does for the team off the field. And if I could be better than that, then there's like that's enough. And it just, the reverence that he holds for his teammates and his coaches, and just the opportunities. And we've talked about him for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, and really you can't say enough good things about him, and is exactly the type of player that you can win with, and Ohio State has been doing that.
Yeah, he has been, he has, ever since stepping on the field, he has been just pretty solid. I mean, he got kind of called into emergency duty at Northwestern, right? Northwestern in 2019. He was like the fourth tackle, and they had two tackles out. So you get called into emergency duty there. And it was a little shaky that first game. It was like, oh boy, how is this going to go? And then ever since then, it's just been like, oh no, he's good. It's been fine. And, every time PFF does one of those, grading out the tackles, it's like last year it was just Thayer Munford and Nick Petit-Frere were on the top of those, their grading leaderboards like every week. And, you can have questions with the methodology there, but if you're consistently grading out that well, like, that's probably a good sign. And if you're going from right tackle to left tackle and no one's noticing, like, that's probably a pretty good sign. Like, and he was doing this against pretty good competition last year. I mean, we were talking about one of the questions you got asked today was about, going against Shaka Toney and Jason Oweh last year for Penn State. And he said, he looks at that as a challenge. That's an opportunity to put out some good film against guys who now are not just in the NFL, but, playing in the NFL, like contributing in the NFL. So then it's, okay, you're going to have some opportunities like that moving forward. You're probably going to get to block Aiden Hutchinson a little later on in this year. So like, this is a great opportunity for you to potentially, again, put out more film. And, he is very much up for that challenge. And, I know he doesn't want to say that this is his last year at Ohio State, but if he does choose to make this his last year at Ohio State, I think he's probably going to hear his name called fairly early in that NFL draft.
Yeah, I agree. Tom, anything else from today? We talked to Tyreke Smith, discussed how it sucked for him to miss games. He does somebody asked him, "Hey, do you view it like now that you're coming back, you're like this bonus add-on, and it's like an October or November call up for the majors, like you've got this added guy, and he does believe he gives the defense something different and something extra." And we keep going back to the postseason last year, the Clemson game, where he was just everywhere. May not have recorded a sack, but he was everywhere near the football. And that's there. Although, again, that Clemson offensive line, maybe that's something, but it's not like the Big Ten has Clemson beat right there now on the various offensive lines. But getting back, he is hungry. This could be his last year. His quote was, I always think I give my team a different aspect in a game. And now that he's back and working his way into it, maybe we'll start seeing him in the starting lineup more, getting his feet back, getting his hands back, getting all of the technique back, and probably right in time, Tom, especially with what's coming down the pike here.
Yeah. And, this is a time of year when, Haskell Garrett talked about the importance of having Tyreke Williams growing into a bigger role, and having for Tyreke Smith coming back in the defensive end room. Like no one is 100% right now, so this is an opportunity for you have as much depth as you can, be able to rotate guys, keep guys as fresh as you can. Like this is the time of year when that really matters. This is something we talk about a lot when we talk about Ohio State and Michigan. Like, yeah, the top line talent is similar. It's the depth, and the depth is where the difference is. So it's huge to get Tyreke Smith back. It's huge, that a lot of these guys are healthy now. Tony, before we go, I do want to point out you are basically an Ohio State offensive coordinator right now.
Why is that?
Tony, you forgot about the tight end, and which is particularly shameful here in the year of the tight end. But we did get to talk to Jeremy Ruckert too. You mentioned that off the top of the show, but I did had a couple of things I wanted to touch on from Ruckert before we go. First of all, he was asked a question about TreVeyon Henderson's balance, and the reporter kind of hedged it as like, I know you can't really notice that on the field. And he like interrupted the question. He's like, "Oh, I notice it." Like that got a big laugh. And he was also asked about, he has been someone who you're sort of hearing about as a leader, like a vocal leader, and that was something that CJ Stroud talked about, I think, on Saturday after the game. That Ruckert will come over and just kind of talk to him, just like, be yourself, like don't try and do too much. Ruckert said that is like a thing that he does. He's trying to be more of a vocal leader on the team, where, that's not necessarily something that comes naturally to him, but it's something that it gets easier every time you do it. And it's not always like yelling. It's not always like, get your crap together. Sometimes it's just putting your arm around a guy and like letting him know, like, it's okay. You can do it. I trust you. You can do it. Just be yourself. And he said that's something that, he tries to do with CJ Stroud, TreVeyon Henderson, like, just go up to him and just kind of keep him calm, keep him on task. Don't let him stress out. Like it's cool. I've been here. I can assure you it will be fine.
Do you find it hard to believe, you being from the area, that he has trouble being vocal and yelling?
I don't know that he has, he is a Long Island guy. I don't know that he has trouble necessarily rolling down a window and telling someone that they're, driving perhaps incorrectly, something like that. But, maybe within a team setting, it is a little more challenging, or maybe it's the supportive part that is not as that maybe doesn't come as naturally. Cause when you roll down your window and you're criticizing, critiquing someone else's driving, it's not generally, "Hey buddy, way to use your turn signal," and actually meaning it and not being sarcastic. So
like if he wanted to be critical of CJ Stroud, he'd like walk up to him and do like the rolling down the window thing, the mime, and then yelling out at him. And that way, because that's the natural, that's how it's just muscle memory at that point.
Yeah. Yes. And CJ Stroud's like, "What's Grey Poupon? I don't get it." And then we're reminded that they're so young and we are so old.
Jeremy Ruckert doesn't even know what the rolling down a window, the actual process of rolling it down means. There's no chance. And then don't even get him started on like when they showed the video of the players like a couple years ago with the cassette player, and they're like, "What is this? Is this a DVD?" What? Oh. These kids today, Tom. I did like what Ruckert said about the offense. Like basically, if the offense doesn't make mistakes, nobody's going to stop them. Like the only people who stop the Ohio State offense are the guys who miss the blocks, miss the reads, miss the hole, or can't drop the ball. Like that's it. There's nothing you can do to stop the Ohio State offense. So don't even try it. Just hope that we mess up, and then maybe we'll let you live. That's basically his statement.
Yeah, and it would come across as really arrogant if I hadn't watched the last month or so of Ohio State football. And now it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, maybe he shouldn't say it, but he's not wrong. So
he shouldn't say it in the Jigsaw voice. That's but
no, he wants to play a game. Come on.
Anything else, Tom, before we go?
No, we've shown the tight ends the proper respect in the year of the tight end. So now we're done.
This is the year of the tight end, as we know. That is canon on the show. I want to thank you all for tuning in. As always, you can find our videos at youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. Also, you can find all of our podcasts at your podcast platform of choice. Just search Buckeye Weekly and you'll find it there. Also, you can search for Tom's Morning Show, the Morning Scoop. You'll find it there as well.
Search for Gibbs in the Bank. Search for Gibbs in the Bank. The episode of Gibbs in the Bank. And if you don't listen to it, I'm going to make you listen to it later this week because we're going to do it as a bonus episode because I listened to it to and from interviews today. It was like, holy smokes, this is one of the best episodes I've seen. So we're listened to.
I haven't been able to listen to it. Did they get to my question?
They did, yes. They weren't sure how to pronounce your last name, but they did get to your question, yes. So It was a fantastic show. You should listen to it now, but we're going to drop it as a bonus episode in this feed later in the week because it is dynamite.
Yep. Check it out. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.